What's going on, people? It's Mr. Dole back again. I'm back at last. It's been a while. World Cup season, halfway through the World Cup. I thought I'd do a podcast. The season is almost back. I thought I'd get the gang back. I'm going to start with the legend, the man himself, Glenn. How you doing, Glenn?
Really? Yeah, I'm very well. Very well. I'm really looking forward to this. It's been. I'm not going to lie. I've missed club football and I've missed watching and being involved with these as much. So yeah, looking forward to tonight very much.
I just thought I'd call you a legend because you are a legend, Glenn. These two are next level. So you're the less talkative one. Next, who's the next legend? I put. You know what? I put Des. Des. I put you, Des. People in the comments, Des is feeling sick. You're feeling man flu. So before we come on, he wants some sympathy. In the comments, don't give him any sympathy at all. How you doing, Des?
I'm all right. There's nothing wrong with me. Like you say, you've told everyone there's nothing wrong with me. So I'm absolutely fine. Can't wait to get stuck in. Need to listen to what Ben and David got to say. Not so much yourself, but really looking forward to chatting to the guys about football again, because that's what we do, isn't it?
This is why I have Des on, because he talks nonsense about me all the time, off camera, and there he is. I thought I'd say he's not ill, but he isn't ill. He's talking fine. And last but not least, we got the man. He's a special legend. This guy's a legend. He can talk for England. He should run for Prime Minister. The man himself, Dave. How you feeling, Dave? How are you?
Well, I'd be surprised if you gentlemen could hear me tonight, because my washing machine's having a right set to with me at the moment. You know what I mean? It's on a spin cycle and it's spinning more than Alistair Campbell, honestly. So, or Shane Warne maybe, or somebody like that. You know what I mean? Samit Patel. But yeah, my timing of washing is really, really bad. So, Mr. Dore, mute me as you see fit, mate.
I will mute you when you talk. I'm joking. People in the chat, I'm joking.
Do you know what? There'll be somebody in the comments going, "Get Dave's washing machine on instead of Dave." I'm sure of it.
I think we've already got a fan already, Dave. We've got from Patrick Collins and Dave. We trust. People in the comments, show some love to Dave, Glenn, and Dave, please. And as well, people, Des has got a channel as well. If you can do a massive favor for me, make sure you do subscribe. He's just done a live stream before we come on. Please show some love to Des. Before we do talk about Forest, as you know, it's a World Cup season. There's been some shocks that Germany are out as well. Who else is that? Belgium are out as well. People in the comments, who do you want to win the World Cup? I'll go through each panel one by one. Let me speak to Glenn. Are you enjoying the World Cup so far?
Not really. I got to be honest. I think it's I'm not one of these, and I know I've got a couple of mates who actually aren't that bothered to the point where they're not even watching anything. They're not, they'll perhaps watch the odd bit of highlight stuff on YouTube maybe, but they're not as involved as they would had it been elsewhere or perhaps in the summer. I'm not really getting into it in the same way as I would normally. It's just one of those things where I'm catching the England games, I'm catching the other games that are relevant to us. At this stage, I think the group stages are generally a little bit meh anyway, aren't they? Particularly, well, I think they are, until it really kicks in the second round. So I'm enjoying it. I'm not really getting into it. It's not the kind of, end of the day beer garden type atmosphere that it would normally be in a World Cup, particularly that time of the year when the days are longer. I'm just finding it a bit more difficult to get into. No doubt from Sunday onwards, I think we'll get a little bit more involved. We've got a little bit to say, no doubt, I guess, tonight about Senegal and how they're going to face against us. But no, to be honest, no, not really. And it's not necessarily for any political reason, although I've got my thoughts and beliefs about that. But it's a little bit of a slow burner for me at the moment. Yeah.
What about you, Des?
I'll tell you what, I'm slightly different to Glenn. It's possibly because I've had the opportunity to watch some games during the day, which due to work commitments and before I started a new job I could do. So I've actually quite enjoyed some of them. I was of the same mindset of Glenn. I wasn't really that excited about what was happening. I wasn't excited about England's chances. England beat Iran, I thought we played well. I thought we did all right in that game. My mood with England's going up and down like you won't believe, but I'm sure we'll come back to that later. So yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? There's been some real good games. I think the last games of the group stages are starting to sort of bring out some really, really good ties. I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about the whole
You always have, Des. You always got a bee in the bonnet. Don't give me that nonsense.
The whole
Always.
international football thing, you know, all this tippy-tappy, slowly catchy monkey, it's rubbish. You know, it's absolutely. I watched Denmark versus Australia yesterday. It could have been a game on the Victoria Embankment. You know, I had big expectations of Denmark. I thought they'd be a dark horse. But they were the worst team I've seen in the tournament. They beat England at Wembley a few months ago, 4-1. And that, you know, that just kind of summed it up in that sense. But then you see the results from Japan, you know, teams like that. Morocco, me and you just beforehand were looking at the groups. Morocco and Japan have won the groups. That can only be a good thing, can't it? You know, teams that are exciting to watch. You know, they might not have the ability of some of the teams, but they're prepared to go forward. And I'm sure when we talk about England and the next stages, you know, Senegal have been a great team to watch as well. We've got vested interest in Czech Kwiatek, of course, who was unfortunate to get injured. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And of course, some of the things I do around football, the pitch footy stuff, the match reports, they've asked me to watch certain games and make certain predictions. Do you know? So it gives me a bit more of an interest to watch those things. So yeah, it's okay. It's not a summer World Cup, you know, where we all get excited and we have a few pints and we think even more England are going to win it after a positive result. You know, it's one of those where we've got to sort of be patient with it. I'm sure it's going to get better as the games go on. Slightly disappointed with like the coverage and the atmosphere around the stadiums. You know, it all sounds
me too.
All sounds a bit flat to me, but you know, it is what it is in Qatar, and I'm sure once we get back to football tomorrow night, you know, of some degree, you know, we'll be excited to get Forest back.
Yeah. Last but not least, Dave, what's your thoughts on the World Cup? Oh, he's on. Oh,
in the end, it's the first time someone else has taken control of my voice, which is in a way quite liberating. What I would say is that leading up to it, I was so heavily forestized, if you like, for want of a better word, that I struggled to contemplate a World Cup, particularly at this time of year and from a moral standpoint in that country. But being like of no principles, whatever, as soon as the football started, I find myself getting drawn into it because when all said and done, it's football. And what I do think the standard of football is mediocre. I don't think there are any good international teams. You know, we have the hype of Brazil every time, and they're basically a European style team. You know, England have produced one and a half really good performances and one and a half kind of drab performances. But you know, England have had rather less trouble than certain other teams. I'm talking Germany are out. Spain have scraped through because, you know, Germany did them a favour, if you like. I did struggle with it to start with. I still don't think it's great, but actually, closer to home and with a parochial view, it's been quite interesting because there've been quite a lot of Forest connections to this tournament.
Yeah, it's loads. It's been loads, hasn't it?
Yeah, if you think about, you know, the three boys for Wales, you know, Mohamed Draga, Remo, Brandon Aguilera.
Dave, don't mention Remo to Dad. He hates the guy.
But the thing is, so all this Forestization is quite good. And what it makes me think is how far again we've come in a year where not only are quite a few of our lads or people connected with our club now on a world stage, but a lot of the players that we've had, if you like, the privilege to see since we got back to the Premier League are playing in the World Cup. So it just shows how Forest have risen from the murky depths of the Championship, really. So, yeah, I can bat all that stuff away and say, oh, it's the wrong time of year and it's the wrong country and this, that, and the other moral questions, whatever you. But when all's said and done, it's still football, and I'll watch it. You know what I mean? So I always get into these things. Although I did have a diversion this morning when England was smashing 500 off 75 overs in Pakistan. I did watch that, and that was truly exhilarating. You know what I mean? So,
right, before I said, we've been talking about the World Cup, and as you know, Ellie and Molo are in Qatar watching the World Cup, and as you know, they've both been doing vlogs for me, and I've been editing, and she's got her own YouTube channel as well. I have been editing, and there is one coming out maybe tomorrow. I might do it tonight. People, so well done for Ellie and Molo for doing all the work as well. They've met some famous people. Should I get them on? I might not even get them on, because they might just rub it in, because they've met so much special players like David Beckham, Cafu, Rio Ferdinand. I can keep going on. All I see is they're both on TV on the BBC. I've had enough of them already. I might just block them on all social media because I've had enough of them. So before we do get on, like I said, there's been quite a lot of Forest players been going on. Like we can mention Brennan, Nico Williams, Henderson. Quite a lot. Any players that stood up for you, Des? Been Glenn. Any Forest player that? Like even like who else has been there? There's been
Richie Larrier
as well. Who else has been on there?
Aguilera, Draga.
I saw him today against Germany. He was all right, wasn't it? He's been all right. So, any players stood up for you, Glenn? Before we get Ellie and Molo
on. I think Hennessy for the time he's been actually playing on the pitch, I think he's actually shown he's got he's got a lot to him. I really liked watching him play, particularly against America. I think he really showed that spark that we saw as London football fans of mates of mine at Palace, etc. How he's been playing down there, and particularly the way he played for us against Tottenham. I thought he's actually benefited from playing in Qatar. He's got some regular football, with the exception of that reckless red card. I think had he played against us on Tuesday, I think the result may well have been a bit different. Obviously, it wasn't. Arguably, the free kick was savable, particularly Rashford's second goal. I think he'd have maybe got his fingers to that a little bit more. So you could argue that would be a different result. I think we'd have won 8 regardless. But I thought he's definitely shone and regularly showing that he's a standing ideal stand-in for us, particularly coming up to the Man United game where he'll be in goal, won't he? Because so. I think that's the situation. I think Brennan's been unlucky not to play, but when he has, he's shown, not so much against England, but he's shown that spark. And I've heard that he's most valuable player in terms of the Wales squad going forward. And there were lots of positive comments from lots of people.
Bell's awful, wasn't it? Bell's been awful for Wales. Let's keep it.
Yeah.
This is what I think. It was before that game. They're saying that Bell should be dropped and Brennan should have played, but I felt sorry.
That was unlucky. I know, and for me, my third, and I'm going to leave it to the end. No doubt the boys will mention him as well. Nico, just so unfortunate not to. He's coming back from a World Cup where he didn't end the cut at the World Cup, regardless of whether they went out in that stage or not. Perhaps in a situation where he would have wanted. The result aside, how unfortunate was it? How unlucky was it just to get the ball, particularly on that part of the head there? And you can see the shot weight going all the way, concussion starting straight away, right? It was really unfortunate for him. Obviously, we all know that the news that he's had of his grandfather, was it 24 hours before the first game as well? So the emotion of going into that match with that red wall and all of that as well was just incredible. How he kept himself together is just a real sign of the professional athlete that he is, and how fortunate we are to have him on our team too.
100%. I think it got to be. I think it was after the USA game. He was so, like I said, crying his eyes out. Like I said, he's gone and passed away. And like I said, I felt for him big time. But he's come back to Forest, and everyone's behind him. And as you know, right? Let's get the people on. Let's get Molo. Let's get Ellie on. People, give some love. Let's give some stick for him, because they're going to rub it in now. They're going to absolutely rub it in. They're in Kuwait. Here we go. People show some love to him. Hello.
Hello, mate. How's the weather?
Don't ask.
Brilliant. Beautiful and warm.
1 degree tomorrow. Not winning in it.
Molly, Ellie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Fantastic, one might say.
It's a bit warm, but, you know, coping. Got the air conditioning on.
We've got a hat on. We've got a hat on. So it's a bit cold. It's a bit cold on here. Look, see, now they're rubbing it in. Now they're rubbing it in. Look at them. Here we go. So Ellie, let's see, Ellie. What have you done so far?
Goodness gracious. We've been here 2.5 weeks now, and it's been quite the adventure. I mean, on our second day, we accidentally ended up at the Ghana team's welcome party, and we really mean by accident. We happened to go somewhere for a brunch, and we're just like, oh, it's quite loud outside. There's a bunch of Ghana fans outside. What's going on here? Then we speak to someone, and they're like, oh, at 5 o'clock today, the Ghana team are arriving. We noticed they've got like a Ghana cake and everything. So like, well, we want to get involved in that, don't we? So I go and get some little Ghana flags. We wait, to be fair, for about 2 hours for them to arrive. Genuinely thousands of fans, thousands outside. It was just insane. I felt a bit bad because all these Ghana fans, you know, who are actually Ghana fans are outside, and just a random group of drunk English fans there with our Ghana flags. Like, yeah. And we had a
James Garner.
You know what, though? It was like,
James Garner.
Yeah, they closed the road. It was like Colic Road after a match. They had to close the road outside the hotel. There's thousands upon thousands of Ghana fans.
We had to get escorted out by security. They were all being held. They're being held back, and we had to get escorted out. And we're just looking at. They must have thought we were like famous and important because we were like at this random Ghana welcome party, getting escorted out by security. So Ghana fans, I mean, they probably, and I don't know, they probably wanted to hit us because we're just like, realistically, I could name 2 of their players, which is quite bad, which is, you know, Thomas Partey and Anton Semenyo.
No.
So
that
was just the start. That was actually that was genuinely day 2.
Wow.
And then from there, it just kind of went a bit more crazy. I was expecting to come in and just watch a couple of that day.
What's going on? It's got the dog, Dave. What are you got the dog for, Dave? Here's the dog here. Marlo, Ellie, what famous people have you met at the World Cup?
David Beckham.
They've met David Beckham, Stuart Pearce, Cafu, Xavi, Bebeto. I've missed Rio Ferdinand. Yeah, they've all met me.
Is that it?
I've been roped in to this fans cup thing. So there's a World Cup fan zone, right? It's the full 32 teams in the same groups as the actual World Cup, and there was no keeper. And it's like they're like hockey-sized goals. So I'm playing in goal, and we played it. They had an opening ceremony. It was insane.
They have commentators and everything for a fans cup that's 5-a-side. And there were like loads of cameras. And I was like, this is so weird.
I've never been so nervous before. Again, there was hundreds of cameras. I got
genuinely.
Ellie got hundreds of filming.
It's so weird. It's been like the most surreal experience.
Everywhere we go, if you wear your England top, obviously usually wear a Forest hat. People want to take selfies with you. They want to stop you and talk to you. And I've got to say,
now you know how I feel. Now you know how I feel.
Hang on a minute, I've got a song. You're not famous anymore.
Earlier, I hope you don't mind, Glenn, because I had exactly the same thoughts before I came out of it about, obviously, I accept it should have been the summer, but all the stuff about human rights in terms of LGBT and women and that, it's been so misrepresented in the press, so badly misrepresented, and we've been like digging quite deep. And even as a guy, I met an English guy who owns a construction company, and I was like, "What's going on? How can how can 6,500 people die building these stadiums? And he was like, where on earth does that number come from?
Molo, I saw it on I think it was on Talk Sport. Piers Morgan. The guy said it's between 400 and 500 people passed away.
Right. Which is still too many. But over a 12-year period of building, I mean, the metros are incredible. The infrastructure is incredible. But I cannot tell you how respectful the Qatari people are towards Ellie, because I'm only here, obviously, as you know, if you read the Times today, because of Ellie. I think the Times described me as a chaperone, but I needn't be here. Honestly, I needn't even be here. It's the safest place I've been in my life. Honestly, it's like, I don't know, it's like West Bridgford High Street.
So how long you there for, LA and Molo?
We leave on Sunday, which is like, I mean, I really can't complain, but it's just like, the game is on Sunday and we don't get home on time. Oh, so we might have to be listening to that one on radio. But it's been an amazing 2.5 weeks.
Oh.
I mean, I've never experienced anything like this. There's still a few days to go.
Today we woke up quite late and Ellie checked the phone and I've got loads of emails. Like, and she started listing all these places. She goes, I'm in the Times. Oh, I'm on the Yahoo thing. And then it was, these people want to come. We've had ITV news, it will be on your news at 10 o'clock, in our apartment, came to film an interview with Ellie. It's mental. Absolutely.
And it's like all the news has been like really like negative, talking about this, that, and the other, alcohol bans. And then it's like, we're the only, to be fair, I've had a few interviews and they've not really let me say what I want to say. I've been herded into saying negative things or put on the spot about things. And then finally someone has actually put out what we said about how actually we do feel safe, and women are coming forward and saying, actually, we feel a lot safer here than sometimes we do in England. And then after that got put out and then Piers Morgan said what he said, everyone's just like, whoa. And it's like, whoa.
I think Lineker's fault, isn't it? Because he's done all that stuff that he's done. That's the politics. I know where you're coming from, Glenn, because I was exactly the same back at home. That's the only reason. But all I can say is, genuinely, and they're neighbours with Saudi Arabia, so I think a bit of that is why people have made that assumption as well. Not that I've ever been there. But you have to see it for yourself. Honestly, I'll never believe a word that's written in the papers or whatever again about another country I've never been to. It's really upsetting the locals, of also not just the kind of fairly affluent Qatari folk, but like all the because they have a large population of working immigrants, because there's only 250,000 Qataris, and they're dead upset. Like, why are they saying such bad things about our press? You know, they're doing things like some of our friends that are here. They'll be eating a meal, and they go to pay, and somebody's paid for it for them. It's mad here. I can't tell. We've been invited into people's houses and stuff like that to experience Qatari culture, and I just can't tell. It's absolutely nuts. It's so different to what I expected. Like, I feel guilty about how I felt almost. But there we go. Enough of that. The football's been all right. England are doing okay.
What was it? Before you go, what was the England and Wales game like?
It was good fun. I mean, obviously comfortable win. The Wales fans are actually quite friendly on the whole, a bit bitter at the end, but not in a, they're just upset, I guess.
No, I thought before there was a little bit, not much, but a little bit of talk afterwards, and you can't really blame them. The Wales fans were just a bit too depressed to argue, so it's like, yeah, we're going home. They couldn't really give anything back, bless them.
Yeah, no, they were fairly good. Mind you, they tried to get their revenge because we had to play them in a group match the next day in that Fans World Cup, and they just kicked the what's it out of our guys because they needed to draw to go through. We'd won both games, we were already through. So we put out the reserves, and they just kicked lumps out of us. It was hilarious. But then, big handshakes again. What I would say, and because I know you've got to move on, the big thing about this World Cup that will probably never happen again is we've come across fans of every single country in numbers because everything's in such a relatively small place. It's you go on the metro and there'll be like Tunisian fans dancing around, getting off one side, Brazil the other. It's just a genuine carnival of football. It's just a shame it's not in the summer. and a shame that.
I think if it was in the summer, we'd all die
Well,
of
yeah,
exhaustion.
yeah.
We haven't. So I think everyone's expecting us to come back with a tan, but it's so hot in the day. You don't. I've only seen the starry night. I've not been out in the day.
Could be going to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. That's another thing. Alcohol ban is a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. The only place you don't get alcohol is the stadium. Everywhere else, I can promise you, there's no shortage of alcohol
It's
here.
brilliant though, because it's like you go into a posh hotel up to the top floor and it'll open up and it'll be like an entrance to a British pub. Like we've been to the Red Lion, which is at the top floor of this hotel. Honestly, I promise you.
You get an Irish nightclub in the middle of the Sheraton, which is the poshest hotel I've ever seen, and so there's proper Irish club.
Like Jay says, no, Jay, I always thought the British press exaggerated, the guy who's made the comment, and I take your point, but they've outright lied. I'm only here because I thought my daughter needed to be looked after in this terrible environment we're coming into, but I can promise you she's safer here than when she's at university in the middle of Nottingham. And I don't mean that to say Nottingham's unsafe, we saw a Ferrari pull up a corner shop, a market shop thing, like a late night shop, but they're all late night shops. And he got out his car, went into the shop, left his engine running with the keys in. I mean, can you imagine doing that in where we live? And the guy was Australian, we've got a load of Australian fans in our hotel as well.
We're living with them.
That's brilliant. We're so chuffed for them.
Yeah,
there's that kind of vibe as well around the other fans. So it is insane. We met a few Forest fans.
You met Corey. Corey was the one there. Steve Corey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, met up with Steve Corey. Yeah, went for a beer because he's doing the commentary, which is fantastic. And he was telling me, Glenn will like this. One of the other commentators is a local PE teacher that works out here, who's British.
Nice.
And he's earning, because you don't have to pay for gas, electric, water. There's no such thing as council tax, and you don't pay tax.
As a Qatari?
No, anybody who works here. So
a friend of mine taught primary PE in Qatar for a good number of years, so they've always come back and given us some really good sort of comments about that, particularly what you were saying. I guess the comment you were saying, Molo, about the festival atmosphere is because all the stadiums are relatively close together, aren't they? So no doubt everybody's in that one place.
The metro system is insanely good. It's obviously a lot of it is brand new or redeveloped, but it's very, very. There's only two things I don't like, the negatives. One, and this is just because I'm lazy, you have to walk miles between. They've
it's
done
not miles.
Some of them are.
It's like 1 mile.
Well, 40,000 steps. That's one thing, because what they do, they spread it out and then they make you do zigzag walks to make sure the crowds don't get too on top of each other. So you're never waiting for a metro either; they're always there. And the other thing I haven't liked is the one mistake I'd say they've made, and I'm not going to judge the country by it that I'm talking about, but they've brought in 30,000 security guys from a different country because they haven't got enough security here, who are used to dealing with teams like Besiktas and all that. And they are a pain in the backside. They took got a big England fan. They took it off us last night for the Wales game. Never had a problem anywhere else, just because it was too big. Very inconsistent, the security.
No, you've forgotten the biggest problem we've had, right? And this, I'm absolutely fuming. Right, so this is the first game of the tournament, and we were told we had to be there. We had to be sat down by 4:30 p.m. and we were told we had to get here really early. So we got to this place at 2 p.m. and it takes an hour to get there. So I've not eaten since 1 o'clock. I'm like, you know what? I want some scram. So I go there and they've advertised all these food outlets. I'm like, yeah, off I pop. And they're like, no, sorry, you have to get inside the stadium to get it. So I'm like, okay, fine, inside the stadium. I go to the food outlet and they're like, there's no food here. I'm like, okay, when will you have food? And at 5 o'clock, okay, fine. I wait. We come back every half hour after 5 o'clock and they're like, we've run out of food. We're like, what do you mean? You've never had food in the first place. Basically, they're just lying. Everyone here is starving. We've been here since 2 p.m. We don't leave till gone 10 o'clock because we have to watch the opening ceremony and the match. I'm very, very hungry at this point. And when I'm hungry, food rage. So
basically solved it by blagging
away. Last but not least, do you think England can win the World Cup?
Yes. I think it depends. It's quite, in theory, yes. However, we have a tendency to not perform when we need to, or like if we perform at our very best, and that's what it will require, our very, very best performance, and we'll have to keep that up through. Because I'm imagining who we're probably going to face, like probably.
If we beat Senegal, well, I don't know because it's all gone.
It's gone a bit weird
shop,
now,
yeah?
so I'm not really sure anymore.
France, yeah. What's that? France. Then it would have been Argentina, wouldn't it?
Who's Dave?
And then
Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah. Hard to look beyond Brazil though.
Yeah.
Because even when they didn't play that well, they were just trying.
Right. Before you go, like I said, as you know, everyone, Ellie's got a YouTube channel now. So if you do want to see all her vlogs, the link's in the description. Go and watch it because she's had good times. Like she just Molo met David Beckham, they've met Cafu. I'll be editing your vlog after this stream. So watch out, people. A vlog be out soon.
One last thing, Ben. You say one last thing.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention one last thing. Brazilian fans that live in Brazil rave about Scarpa. They've really got my hopes up.
Yeah.
Genuinely, they're like.
He's
what
like
a great player he is. Yeah.
He really likes cookies, so we should all buy him some cookies.
Speaks American, and he's leaving. His last game for Palmeiras was like a carnival atmosphere. They gave him a massive send off. He seems a real character. He's a Rubik's Cube obsessed American accented Brazilian.
Have you seen the picture of his suitcase that come out today?
Yes.
He was down at Flowing Lady Bay when he at the skateboard park, no doubt. They're genuine. They say he's a top player. They're like outraged that he wasn't in the squad.
Yeah,
they're like he should have been in the Brazil squad. He's the best player playing in Brazil at the
moment. You got player of the season, didn't it?
Yeah, but it's scary to think he's playing for us. What can we do to ruin him?
I think he's only 28 as well, so good age as well. But it's been a pleasure. What time is it?
Here.
Yeah,
it's only midnight.
No,
time to go out. I'm joking. I've got a game at 10. We're playing Holland in the last 16 tomorrow morning. That fans club at 10 o'clock.
You better get your shooting boots on then. I heard you're not been scoring much
goal.
I was watching David Beckham's vlog today, and he was like creaming his pants because he'd met Bob.
Hey, I was on his Instagram
and he couldn't get over meeting Ellie. He was just completely starstruck.
No, we're on his Instagram.
We seen it. Yeah, we seen it.
Yeah. I've got pictures from like people sending me messages from like my cousins and that back in England. Saying, "You're on David Beckham's Instagram." Huh? It is just insane out here, I have to say. The same day we met Beckham, we're walking back to the train station, or at the train station near where we are. And they've got them escalators everywhere, like at airports, the flat ones. Travelator, there we go. And we go one way, and two blokes come up the other way, and I was half asleep, and Ellie just went, that was Stuart Pearce. We turned around, so luckily there was no one about except for them. You got me and Ellie sprinting the wrong way up an travelator.
That's legend.
That's fantastic.
And that is insane. I'm looking forward to coming home. I'm not going to lie. I know
don't come. It's cold. It is really cold. This is why. Why do we wear a desert top? The woolly hat. People, if you want a woolly hat, message Des. It is nice and warm. So
my wife rang me the other day, and she was in the car driving around with the heating in the car on.
So people,
stay warm. So
if you want a bubble hat.
Do daily special.
Do daily special, people. It's Des hat. See, Des. Don't say I don't promote your stuff. Look, if you want one, message Des. Don't message me. I'm enough for you, people.
I'm looking forward to coming back for assuming the Man U tickets will be out soon as well. So
yeah. But are you not going Blackburn?
No, I don't think so. I've got too much going on. And I probably need to earn a bit of money as well.
Part time off.
I've got tickets.
He's slacking. Well, Ellen, Bob, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the hot weather. Enjoy the hot weather.
Will do. Keep looking out for that Forest flag and Forest scarf.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And did you shout DoreOnTour on BBC?
I haven't done that one yet. I've got BBC interviews.
Just got about 5 interviews tomorrow. I'm I've got to play football and do my work.
Oh, just make sure you enjoy it. Smash it, Ellie, as well, man. Really enjoy it. And like I said,
big up to you, Ben, because I've got a final thing I'm going to say for you. When you do your blogs, I always think they're good, but now I don't know how you've managed, because it's so hard. I keep forgetting to get content, and I don't know how you've managed to make it look half decent, because I'm thinking, I should have filmed that. I should have filmed. And Ellie's like a director. She'll go, film that. So it's like, you've done a great job, mate. And how you make yours so good normally, fair play. A new level of respect for you people that can do all that.
It keeps me occupied when Forest's not playing. But I don't know if you know. Do you know we've got a game tomorrow? I just thought I'd tell you that.
Yeah. It's is it Stoke or someone?
Loughborough. So me, Des, and Dave, we're going to the game. So you can watch out for that vlog as well.
Compare and contrast.
You go to Loughborough, or should we go to the beach?
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure, El and Molly, and thank you again for keeping me occupied.
Thank you for everything. See you later, guys. Look forward to seeing you back in the UK.
Right,
cheers. I'll be back home soon, Gemma.
All right, peace and love. Cheers. Right, that's the legends, Ellie and Bob. Make sure everyone subscribes to Ellie. She's done some great work. Like Ellie, Bob, met David Beckham as well. But yeah, that's the World Cup. Right, let's talk about Forest. Let's talk about the mighty Forest. We're back tomorrow, and as you know, we've got Freddie tomorrow. Des is going. David's going. I missed it. I've missed watching Forest. People in the comments, have you missed watching Forest? I know it's a game, but why do you have to play Stoke? Of all teams, and I've had bad memories. And Des, are you looking forward to watching Forest tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm just looking for football fixes. I'm not sure what to expect. It's going to be one of those teams that some of the squad players, what we saw in the summer, probably the guys who haven't been featuring in the squad very much, the Cafus, players like that, maybe Dale Taylor, someone like that, getting in some sort of training game. It's one of those, isn't it? I don't really know what to expect. I just saw it. It came up. They were selling some tickets for it, and I think I've just got in the habit now of buying Forest tickets when they're sold, waiting eagerly. So bought the ticket. Again, it's just a football fix. It's a chance to go and see some of the guys and just see how they're getting on.
Yeah,
this bloody dog is doing on.
I know people. The dog has been a pain in the bum, but you know what? I love it.
He's been biting my hand, and now he's gone and got my work pass, and he's eating that.
Oh, days. As you know, people, what's going on? Let me see the pass. Has he ripped it?
No, it's just.
Oh, poor dog. He should be doing it more. Dave, how excited are you missing the game tomorrow?
Well, Des hit as he usually does. He hits all the nails on all the heads when he said it's a chance to meet friends and familiar faces again. Which is lovely. Which is, to me, in many ways, given my situation, is almost as important as the football itself. It's a multi-dimensional thing. So, yeah, really looking forward to it. It'd be nice to see, as Des says, it's going to be interesting to see who plays. I mean, I do have to thank my mother. Did the shopping Monday, and the old dear gave me a tenner for doing the shopping, and they are love. And so I thought, well, how much are the tickets for this match? So in effect, my mum, bless her, 85-year-old, go greet her. She bought me the ticket. So, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And it will be interesting to see who plays tomorrow night, because I watched the sort of back to work video and then the inside training video, which the Forest TV do. They're really interesting, honestly. And I was watching the training session, and what was noticeable to me, Dale Taylor heavily involved, Detlef Osapa-Osong
He was on the
involved?
bench, wasn't he? Was he on the bench against Crystal Palace?
Dale was, Dale was
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
I think Dale is a real prospect, and I think we probably all four of us agree with that. Detlef Osapa-Osong, who's been doing good things for the 18s, he was involved. Ollie Hammond. In fact, there was a bit of where Ollie Hammond nutmegged somebody. I can't quite remember who it was. It was really interesting. They all look really happy. They're all having the crack, having a good laugh. You know, it's difficult to know how sharp they are or whatever, but they looked happy. They all looked pleased to see each other, which is good. And I just think it's a nice little pipe opener for what's to come, you know, starting against Blackburn, and then obviously the big one. And it's going to be a really tough game because I think Manchester United are going to be better on 27th of December than they have been probably earlier in the season. They seem to be exercising some of their demons, Manchester United, both on and off the field. So I think they're going to be an incredibly difficult prospect. But I just think it's nice. It'll be nice tomorrow night. Just like Des says, it's just watching. It's a twofold fix. It's that football fix and it's that Forest fix. It's a three thing, a friend fix as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've worked out how to get there. And the only thing is, at the moment, when I bought my ticket, I went for a postage delivery, and the mail strikes mean that I haven't got it yet. So I might be calling the ticket office, in which case they'll just do me a replica at the Loughborough University Stadium. But yeah, it's a game of football with me mates. It's my team. It's the love of my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be anywhere else, really.
Yeah, exactly.
They sold out. Do you know if they're sold out?
No.
I think there's going to be a lot more Forest than Stoke there, Glenn, to be honest.
Oh,
and like to answer Dore's question, why Stoke? I think it's just like Stoke are only down the A50, so it's a little trip for them.
Well, you know what? As you know, Stoke, that game, as everyone knows, I don't like saying the word. Like, respect to Kevin Campbell, some place for them. But I just hate I don't hate him as much as I hate Derby, but Stoke, every time I mention the word Stoke, it's just bad memories when we lost 1-0.
That 4-1 in an empty stadium, which
that one as well.
That was worse. I think that was really painful. And then that 1-0 away last year was just abominable. We were awful, you know.
Glenn, have you missed watching Forest? Like I said, it's just, as you know, I've been doing editing people, but it's just miss doing Forest content. I missed it. I missed me speaking to Des, Glenn, and Dave. Missed to speak to everyone as well, doing content. But just speaking about Forest, and just it's good to see the players back on training as well. But we've got the friendlies. We've got I'm going to Valencia as well.
Yay.
I'm going to Valencia. Des is like 50-50. I don't know what. Shit. Oh, sorry. Let me edit that out. That's not going. But yeah, sorry, Glenn. Have you missed it?
I have, and obviously, being 150 miles away and not having a membership or a seasons card, I have a different kind of focus to it than you guys do. No doubt, it's like losing a limb when you've not had this amount of club football. But I would like to suggest I'm kind of on the side of the vast majority of your subscribers that don't go regularly, particularly around the world subscribers that have really missed club football generally. I think they're not having that kind of build up, and as much as the club has given the players a couple of weeks off, and we've seen them all around the world, and loads of them seem to be in following Formula One or in New York or wherever they are. I think it's a really good opportunity for them, as much as no doubt we've got some players in the Welsh team and those teams that are going on further that are going to be coming back in a slightly different state when they get back after the World Cup. It's a really good opportunity for them to have a little bit of a break mid-year. So as much as I'm kind of negative about the World Cup generally at this time of the year, I think it's actually been the players, and I don't speak to any of them anymore, but no doubt that they would be saying to us that they've had a little bit of a break in the year when they've arguably not needed it in a certain extent. Physically and mentally they probably will, but the Crystal Palace result was probably come at the wrong time, didn't it? We really want to spur on and get bring on Blackburn, bring on Man United, but I think it's going to be it's going to be a great game tomorrow. I am actually coming to Nottingham for a few days, so I might actually come up, and if I can get a ticket, my daughter and I will pop into Loughborough on the way up there. But if I don't, then have a great evening. And I think it's just that, seeing a bit of club football again. No doubt you guys are feeling this. It's just a nice thing to do in the middle of a World Cup, isn't it? Just having that friendly that they didn't need to play. I totally agree with you guys saying that it's a real opportunity to play some of those fringe players that wouldn't necessarily have had a game. And the videos that Forest TV are putting out, they seem to be really sharp. They seem to be really enjoying coming back together again, like you said, Dave. And I hope they rest a few key players that may be continuing to play through December and over the new year. And play some of the guys that perhaps may be playing for the seniors for the first time, like you said, the under 18s. I hope to see you there. If I don't see you there, I hope you have a good evening.
Glenn, if you do come, Glenn, the drinks on there. Just what I'll get out there. People, the 61 people. Thank you everyone for taking part to listen to me, Des, Glenn, and Dave. On to a little bit, Des. The players are back, and the people in the comments as well. Get involved with this. Part two soon back. What players need to impress and need to be better? Because I know we ended the season in a positive note. We beat Spurs in the cup. We beat Palace in the league as well. What players do you think need to step up?
Well, you threw me under the bus earlier with Remo for you, didn't you? You're quite happy.
Right.
What I want to say is, he not the player in the tournament? He made 2 sideways passes.
Here we go. There we go.
The Remo for you Man of the Match award taken from David Vaughan. My point about Foyer is, what I've seen so far, I don't think he impacts a game. I think he's an excellent footballer. I think he plays further forward for Switzerland. He looks even better for Switzerland. He's technically very, very gifted. What I don't think he does in a Forest team is get the ball to the forward players quick enough. And I can see where people like him, but let's face it, Forest haven't been very good this season. So we can't say that anyone has excelled, especially a defensive midfielder. Morgan Gibbs-White hasn't excelled. Jesse Lingard has not excelled. Nobody's played particularly well. So for people to think that this guy is a world beater, I don't get it. I really, really don't get it, because he's not a world beater, because none of them are world beaters right now. So I'd love him. I've not got an agenda against Remo Foyer. I want him to be this player that everybody says he is. Technically, very good. Pleasing on the eye. I can see where it's coming. But from day one, from Grimsby away, I was saying I like the look of this guy, but he's got to play further forward. To be successful in the Premier League, Forest have got to start linking up the back to the front, and it's not happening. It's not happening with the players we've got. They've not found the right balance in midfield. I think he's a technically good footballer. I don't think it's a perfect pairing with Ryan Yates. A trio with Ryan Yates. I think Yates has been fantastic. He has been the one who stands out because he's done what we expect of him. He's done what Ryan Yates does. And when we have dominated midfield against Tottenham in the Cup, against Liverpool, against Crystal Palace, we've won the match. I've learned in the Premier League, when you win that midfield, people talk about wide players, strikers, slow defenders, this type of thing. When you win the midfield, you win the football match. It's as simple as that, because that's what we've done in those games. And for me, if you look back at the things I said about Foyer in the Liverpool game, I thought he had his best game for Forest. I think, but I'd like to see a little bit more. All the hype, what everybody said, I'd like to see him getting 20 yards further up the pitch. Playing that killer pass. That's what I'm expecting from him. Balls through to Gibbs-White, Lingard, breaking defences, rather than play sideways passes. Because Ryan Yates does that and he gets hammered for it. He gets absolutely crucified. You know, I think you've got two players in there. Kouyate's doing a good job, a little bit further. He chases down wide and all over their defensive players. And I think you've got two players in there doing a very similar job, yet Ryan Yates is doing all the actual dirty work. That's where my problem lies before you. So I'd love him to be a star. Like I say, he is obviously technically very gifted, but I'd like to see him further up the pitch. At Forest, it's not happening. Of course, Forest have had to play that way to some degree because we've been under the cosh, you know, so you are going to be a bit deeper. But I noticed this from Grimsby away, from that very first game, almost floating across that back four, making passes. And when he's made a mistake, people say, "Oh, it's Remo for you." No, that's not good enough, because if Ryan Yates, who's a club sort of legend by now, you know, a guy who came through the academy, yes, it's sentimental. That's right, but so we should be. He's one of our own. If he gets hammered for playing the ball across the defence, because that Brentford game, it cost us, you know, massively with that ball across the defence, and it happened 3 times, you know. So he needs to cut that out. So for me, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him come back and prove me absolutely wrong. You know, I comment on football because I'm asked to do it, you know, and from yourself and from other people. I've got no agenda against this guy. I just want to see that little bit more to make me believe that he can be man of the match every week, because that's how some people treat him. And I don't get it. I don't get it just yet. You know, we're starting to see shoots. Going back to your original question, who needs to be better rather than the Remo Forest show? We're seeing shoots out of Jesse Lingard and Gibbs White. They're starting to become a partnership. You know, they're starting to play well. Confidence, you know, obviously the documentary Jesse's done is probably a bit of a weight off his shoulders, you know, that kind of thing, freed him up a bit. You know, the things I do, I talk openly every day on Do Daily. It frees me up to then say what I want to do and do what I want to do. So I can totally see that in Jesse's performance. I can see Gibbs White, you know, I've always been a massive fan. But again, he hasn't set the world on fire. But you're seeing a little partnership starting to form. I just think there needs to be a little bit of something in midfield. Even last couple of games, Joe and Big Willie, as Dave likes to call him, they formed some sort of partnerships. But that's what the Premier League is, isn't it? And again, I'd like to see more from Loddy, for example. Again, along the same lines. He scored a goal. He's been better, but he's not been great. You know, so there's certain players, and we can't just sit back and go, we can't expect players. We can't expect too much from players. Well, we have to, otherwise we get relegated. It's as simple as that. So you can't say Foy is a class player, Ryan Yates is a class player, Morgan Gibbs White's a class player if the team gets relegated. So somebody's got to step up somewhere. And for me, with the reputation these guys have got, Foy, Loddy, you know, they've got to step up. We all knew there was going to be a few issues around the defence. I think we'll probably see 1 or 2 more signings. I think there's a lot of rumours about Keane in particular, isn't there, from Everton. So yeah. I see 1 or 2 more there. But for me, looking at the team as it's been, starting to settle down a bit, those I mentioned, you know, and of course, Jesse. We need to see more from Jesse. Yeah. He's done it now in the last couple of games. He's showing us it's starting to come together. But we need more from him. We need more from Taiwo. He is what he is to some degree. But everybody's got to improve if Forest are going to stay in the Premier League.
Do you echo what Des says, Glenn?
That's my notes there. Lingard, Emmanuel Dennis and Taiwo.
Explain.
I'll talk about Emmanuel Dennis because you haven't. We were Arsenal.
I forgot.
We were Arsenal. And do you remember what the Arsenal fans shout when their announces players onto the field? You know, coming on, Joe Worrell. What do they say? Who?
Yeah.
The 2 geezers behind me were jabbing on the whole game, second guessing, saying what they would have done if they'd. I sat in the Arsenal end with a mate of mine. The funny thing was about Emmanuel Dennis, and the thing that I've hoped that he would become is they said who when Emmanuel Dennis came on, and they said who when everybody else we brought on, but he was the one that they said who, he went, "Oh, actually, you played all right against Watford when he played against us last year." So that they've seen this guy play. We've seen this guy play. I've still, okay, he scored a really good header. I just hoped he'd be a little bit more sort of Premier League ready as he's moved in from what was a Premier League team. And that's disappointing for me. Jesse Lingard, Des, hit the nail on the head for me. I hope that, the stuff's been going on with his mum and his daughter and his former partner, and that, the difficulties that he had moving away from Man United and the Derby game, it's all very well documented, right? I do hope that this little partnership that you spot on there, little partnership that he's starting to develop with Morgan Gibbs White is something that he will then, or actually will elevate both of them through the remainder of the year. And I do hope that if Lingard's not with us next season, I do hope for the benefit of Morgan Gibbs White that he's got that mature shoulder. Whenever I see any of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, I saw them both arrive at the same time to the training ground yesterday. They've got this real brotherhood going, and I hope that's something that the coaching staff and the rest of the team are really nurturing between the pair of them, because they're potentially they're really going to be a real solid element of our attack line, aren't they? One thing I'll say about Freuler, if you look back on Morgan Gibbs White's goal against Crystal Palace, there was a little bit of a in and out pass. Freuler was the difference between that transition away from Crystal Palace, and he won the ball back and recycled possession, and in the end there was a goal. That's what I want to see a little bit more from him as well. I want to see him getting a little bit more forward and looking up, being that that player who can really kind of track around and really put those balls forward. If you look back, I thought that was a real positive thing, and looking back through that,
I totally agree with that, Glenn, and I meant to use that as a point. I'm glad you mentioned it. Because it shows what can happen. He did. He basically broke up the play twice. But for me, in a Forest shirt, twice in the whole time is not enough.
For sure.
Keep doing it. You'll have me on side before you know it. But high up the pitch, win the ball back, and then play it wide, ball in, goal.
Yeah.
And if Remo's playing tomorrow we're going to miss it because we'll be at the game, aren't we? So Glenn can do that with a Remo watch for us tomorrow. Why we're at the game tomorrow. Last but not least, I know David's still got his washing machine on, so you won't hear as much from Dave.
It's a long cycle, isn't it? 58.
The spin cycle. I've got it basically, lads. I've got a big towel in, so it's a 3-hour job. You know what I mean? My washing machine has just basically given me what I should say. And basically, it is that every single person connected with Nottingham Forest on and off the field has to step up. We are in the bottom 3 still. No getting away from that. Yeah, there's been an upturn. We are a relegation candidate as of now. That has to change. So everybody has to step up. Whether it's Morgan, whether it's Jesse, whether it's Emmanuel Dennis, whether it's Taiwo, whether it's Joe, whether it's Scotty, the whole squad has got to step up. Everybody. The Freuler thing I find really interesting. Because obviously I'm lucky enough to be retired now. So I get the chance when I'm not doing shopping for the old dears to watch a lot of these matches. and Freuler, right. Can you get us 2 bottles of milk, Duck, and a couple of fruit loaves? And I'm thinking, yeah, you two are a couple of fruit loaves. But anyway, what I was going to say, I watched Freuler in the first game that Switzerland played against Cameroon, and he gave us a glimpse of what he should be doing on a more regular basis.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that.
Basically,
I do agree. Yeah.
He got the ball basically halfway inside the Cameroon half. He played a lovely pass out to somebody, put it in the middle, and Bolo scores. And that's what you want from Freuler. And actually, it was a very similar geographical location on the pitch to the one he took up when he sort of created the winning goal, or helped to bring about the winning goal against Crystal Palace. So the thing about Remo is he came with this reputation that he'd garnered through what he'd done for Atalanta in the Champions League, which is that's a furnace in which to learn your trade. So I think we're still expecting the best from Remo. There have been glimpses, but glimpses aren't enough.
David, his best game. His best game was against Olympiacos.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Yeah, and what's his name? Matilda's Marinakis watched it and thought, yes, he's good. Forest will buy him. And look at
Yeah, you see, what slightly irritates me about football recruitment is that a lot of people will judge somebody on just one game. So there'll be lads in this World Cup, right, who will have one good game and people will think, that guy, I want to see it over 10, 20, 30. I mean, to give you a case in point, I tell you, it's really impressed me for the Australians. Big Harry Suter from Stoke at the back, he's been outstanding. You know, somebody like that. Some of the Japanese lads, Mitoma, who's at Brighton, what a prospect he is.
Yeah.
You know, Pedri for Spain, I think is a lovely player, a young lad learning his trade. You know, I do think though that you cannot just go on one game. You have to, you know, scout a player over a number of games, and I think that some of our recruitment, I wouldn't say all of it, but I think some of our recruitment might have fallen into that category. But I just think if you like, the one player that does sort of slightly irritate me and I want to see more from him is Emmanuel Dennis. He's the one. Like Glenn said, he scored a lovely goal against Villa, but then in the next game away at the Wolves, the ball kept going forward and coming back. You know what I mean? So I just think the absolute priority, and I'm repeating what I've said on other outlets, is that we need a centre forward who can score goals and hold the ball up and bring others into play. Now, the only sort of example of that kind of player that I can think of, and you know, you lads might be able to think of better examples, but when Glenn Murray was at Crystal Palace and Brighton, Glenn Murray did those jobs. We were unlucky at Forest to get Glenn, who I think is a cracking guy and a really good footballer. We were unlucky to get Glenn at the end of his career. So Glenn's gifts had sort of waned a bit. But when he came into the league with Brighton and Palace, somebody, you know, he led the line, he scored goals, but he also knitted the play together. And I think that is Forest's most pressing priority in January. We need somebody of that ilk. We need a focus. Taiwo can do certain things. Emmanuel Dennis can do certain things. The false nines can do certain things. But we need a forward fulcrum. Absolutely. That's what we need.
I'm just looking for a comment, and this is from Olympiakos fan, Gate 7 International. How are you doing? And I'm gutted that I'm not going to Greece. I'm really gutted about that.
Great lads they are.
Yeah,
great
fantastic lads.
Fabulous guys.
So gutted. I think I need to do a preview show. If you can, message me on Twitter so we can do a preview show and talk about the game.
Yeah, Harry and Costa, wonderful.
Yeah, so Philip Pillar gets to the European League, Europa League, All-Star, all build up the start from him. Very good at breaking possession and starting position. Haven't seen enough of it at Forest. Yeah, I think that's what Des means. Like I said, I've always rated him, but I get what Des is trying to say. Like I said, you've got to see more. And I think what Glenn said, breaking up the play and passing it forward straight away to give people like Lingard, Gibbs White, and Jono.
The two names that strike all of us are Foyer and Dennis. I'd forgot about Dennis in my rant about Foyer.
Yeah.
But the two I think the two players who was expecting a lot from was a Champions League player and a guy who'd scored 10 goals in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And those two players just haven't lived up to that reputation, whatever anyone says. Dennis has been poor. You know, Foyer is hit and miss for me personally, but Dennis has been very poor. And I think that's where the frustration comes in, because if they cost a lot of money, you know, I look at Dennis and Sam Surridge costed £2 million, and for me, Sam Surridge every day of the week, that guy cost 20 million quid. You know, that's just feeding the people that criticised us about signing 22 players, you know, all the material they need.
Sorry, Dave.
Actually, just everything that's been said by Glenn and Des, I totally concur with. And you know, on the plus side, let me chuck in Serge Aurier, because he's been way better than we've expected. And I just think Serge he's on his way to becoming a cult hero if he carries on playing like this. So, you know, with 22, you know, new bodies,
best one.
like Des says, some are hit and miss. But Serge, he's on his way to being a hit because that guy's been terrific.
Not just yet. It'll be a bigger hit if he plays a better second half of the season.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I'm just going for the comments before we. I think I have one more before we do go. And this is from Axel. Hi guys, cheers. All from Argentina. I like to see Drager back at Forest at this World Cup. He's been absolutely rock solid. I've not seen him. I've not really seen him. I've not really seen him. Have you seen him, Dave?
I thought he played pretty well in the first game for Tunisia, but obviously they've gone out. So that's the thing with a lot of our lads. They've gone out of the tournament, so you can't say they've had a massive impact really. But yeah, Drager looked all right, but I don't think he's going to take out
a little bit, Dave. I thought he looked tidy again, but like Dave said, you scout these people, players will get signed off the back of World Cups. And they're rubbish. Because this is why we ended up with them in the first place. So you look at the Forest side. We got when Molo and Ellie come on earlier. You were talking to Glenn about Forest performances at the World Cup, and I think David mentioned Hennessy. Hennessy for Forest and in this World Cup looked very solid as a goalkeeper. Almost pushing Henderson for that number one spot. And then you look at Bale. Johnson set up that first goal for Wales. Just quick thinking, positivity around the place, quick throwing, won them a penalty. Without that, they wouldn't have scored a goal at the World Cup. And I think Wales played with 9 men for most of the World Cup. They were that poor. And Nico, obviously, he's had a bit of a traumatic World Cup. So whilst he hasn't been brilliant, there's obviously extenuating circumstances. But it's just interesting to see the Forest players dotted around, isn't it? Like Traeger, someone who's without winning.
A year ago, we were a championship side. We would not have been in this environment at all. Forest players in the World Cup, seeing great players from, some of these top nations who play in our league. We're into a new land. It's wonderful. And to me, the player who surprised me the most, and it was sad because they ended up going out. In fact, they ended up losing all 3 games. I thought Richie Larea played really well for Canada. He did all right, Richie. But the guy who comes from Hennessy, as Glenn has said, and as you said, is a very solid customer. He exudes that experience, Wayne does. To me, the one who'll come back from the World Cup better than anybody is the one who's had the hardest time, and I think that's Nico. And when Nico was playing, I mean, I'm an old softie. When these lads put a Forest shirt on, they almost become my sons. So I'm watching Nico. When Nico's shedding tears and he's getting a bang on the head, I'm there with him. I'm emotionally invested in Nico. And same with Brennan, same with all of them. But I think Nico Williams is, a young man who's gone out to the World Cup, and whatever happens, he will come back a stronger, better character for what's gone on. And I think we've got a little gem there in Nico Williams. I really do.
Right, before we go, I'm going to ask 2 more things. People in the chat get involved as well. As you know, I started seeing us to say, can Forest stay up? We are still in the bottom 3. We've had some bad days. We finished with a little bit of a smile. I'm not going to say a big smile, a little bit of smile. Can Forest stay up, people? That's the bigger question. Can Forest stay up? People in the comments get involved. Let me ask Glenn. Glenn, can Forest stay up?
Last time I was on here, I said yes. This time, yes. I think there's no reason why not. I think there was a situation, and Des and I have spoke a couple of times about this. We were, prior to Brighton, arguably the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
We're not anymore. A little like the echo to the World Cup, you haven't asked that question, who we think whether England are going to win or not. And maybe
that's the last one.
So I shall hold off for my thoughts about that. I think the bottom 7 or 8 teams on their day could quite easily, and I think it might just be throw in 7 or 8 team names up in the air, and it could be any one of those 3 teams by the end of the cycle, all the way through the league. It could be any one of those, couldn't it? I think we're good enough to stay up at the moment. I think we're making positive strides in terms of getting ahead of Wolves and Southampton. I think we're making positive strides in terms of bringing in players potentially and keeping older players coming back from injury that may well have an impact from whether they come back from the World Cup or coming back from injury, as I mentioned about Nikate from our Olympiacos friends. I think the Blackburn game is really critical based on the next 2 opponents in United and Chelsea going into January. I think that's going to be really critical to get those points from that game and then try and get something out of those 2 fixtures. I think we can stay up. Next time I come on, I hope to be able to give you a little bit more reasons why. But yes, of course.
Yes, we can stay. Okay. Des, can Forest stay up?
You know what? Like Glenn says, before that Brighton game, Leicester game, all those, they were going down. It's as simple as that. They were going down. Wolves, people walking out there, shaking their head, not knowing what's happening next. But it started happening, hasn't it? What took even as staunch Cooper was starting to think, is he going to be able to do it again? Is he going to be able to turn the team around in the way we've seen it last season? And it is starting to happen. I do believe they've got a real chance of stopping up, and you know what it's like. You get battered either way for say you get called a dreamer or a negative Nelly, So I believe that.
Nelly? Who called you that, Des?
You get called it all the time, Dor.
People start calling me that soon. So
I get called some other things on Twitter as well, but I didn't want to comment on this. No, I think they've got a massive chance now because it's starting to come together. We spoke about partnerships, players. 1 or 2 reinforcements, maybe. Not too many though. We don't want to go down that road again. And perhaps the likes of Foyer, Dennis, players that have underperformed so far. The most exciting thing for me, and it's easy, it's an easy pick, but it's obvious. But is Gibbs White and Lingard starting to find their feet? Because if we look back in May, start of June, whenever, and say those 2 guys have had a strong second half of the season, Forest have stopped up. Forest have stopped up if we're looking back and saying those 2 guys finished well. So yes, we spoke about improvement earlier, but I think they really can. I still think it's going to be massively tough because there's still a lot of issues within the team. We're getting outplayed at times, and don't get me wrong, winning fortunately is the thing. If Palace had scored early, it would have been a different game. Goals change football matches, but they didn't, and then we played really well. So it's about finding a way to be competitive, keep being competitive. The last thing we want after this World Cup is to go back and almost go back to square one. I think again, like I think Glenn said, the Blackburn game is massive now. In a way, it's a way back in. If we weren't in the cup, some of those players coming back, some who will play against Man United, I'd imagine will play against Blackburn. It's a way to get match fitness going again and things like that. Perhaps the World Cup players might not play, but the likes of Worrell, Bowley, it might be another game together, to prepare them. They haven't been playing as regular as the other guys. So I think that's like a real sort of strong pre-season test. Even though it's an important game within its own right, I think it's massive for us to approach that and apply ourselves properly, and then sort of take that forward into Man U. Of course, we've got a tough start again, and I don't want to be writing off any games, but you've seen already when we've been stuffed, there is a bit of bounce back ability all of a sudden, and I think that's what's key to see us keep chipping away. Because in reality, I've just said yes, I think we've got a massive chance. I still think, regardless of what I said, and think we're moving in the right direction, and nobody can deny that now. I still think it's 3 from 4. I think Everton and Leeds will have enough. Leeds play a brand of football that will win them games of football. Simple as that. Everton, you know, as much as I'd love to see them go because of the manager and because of the fact they keep flirting with it, I think they'll have enough. Calvert-Lewin, who scored the goals, you spoke about number 9. You know, we all know how.
I love that Forest. I love that Forest. I would.
I spoke about midfield winning matches. When the midfield plays well for Forest, we're managing to scrape it because Tyro might knee one in or something like that. If we had a midfield playing fantastically well and a good number 9, I think we stay up. You know, that's a definite. That would be. I'd put us in a different bracket. But I think right now it's 3 from 4. I think Wolves are struggling to score goals. I think Southampton are struggling to stop goals going in the other end. You know, a bit like Forest. Forest have got a mixture of the two at the minute. They've gone from conceding a lot, not scoring, to almost finding the balance at either end of the pitch. So I think you've got Forest, Wolves, and I think Bournemouth are run out of steam, or have run out of steam almost, haven't they? You know, and that's where we are. I think 3 from 4, but that's what we said we'd take. 17th, you know, we'll take it. I hate that kind of thing. We'll just scrape up. I'd like to think Forest are a bigger club than most of the Premier League teams, but I'd just get called arrogant for that. I think
just don't fight on Twitter, please. Just don't fight on Twitter. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't argue because when Forest have a little bad patch, he likes to have a little rant on Twitter. I want to give a little phone call to Des. Like, Des, it's okay. It's all right. Don't rant, Des. Last but not least, Dave, can we stay up?
Yeah, I absolutely think we can.
After what you said against Leicester. After what you said against Leicester.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't think we would after Leicester, but Leicester actually almost needed to be as bad as it was to kind of garner some kind of we're back with Garner again, aren't we? Forgive me for that. Kind of generate some kind of response to sort of say, right, it cannot be as bad as this again. And Glenn made a fantastic point. The last 20 minutes at Brighton just gave a little bit of belief. Yatesy with the bloodied nose and getting stuck in and the black eye and all that. And if you think about it, if you take Arsenal out, who are kind of at the moment slightly runaway league leaders, then we're unbeaten in all the other games around it. You know, we're unbeaten in 5 of the last 6. And I definitely think the spirit in the squad looks really good. I don't see any disharmony. Bench cam is very revealing. I think it shows that, you know, people who are not playing are enjoying the good things that people on the field are doing. I think that is I don't think Forest have got any psychological or social issues. I just think they have football quality issues. They need to be better on the field. In terms of Gordon raised it about name 3 worst teams. I think Southampton are worse. I think Wolves are worse. I think that Bournemouth are going to have some issues, although they've just given Gary O'Neill the job on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
So that stabilises them to a certain extent, but have they got enough quality? I'll tell you a name that hasn't been mentioned yet and may yet find itself with a bit of a problem is Brentford have to deal with the Ivan Toney issue. Now, if Ivan Toney gets banned for quite a while, that takes away Brentford's talisman and a lot of their goals. So Brentford can yet get dragged in. Everton, Leeds, I agree with Des. I think Leeds will have enough energy and enough oomph to stay up. But Everton have been hanging around the bottom of this table for a while. And the thing about Everton is, I've got this. If I was an Everton fan, I'd be really, really nervous about building a new stadium and then the opening game in that stadium being played in the Championship. I just think there's something about Everton that just doesn't feel right. You know, if you compare us to Everton, I would say that we're a pretty harmonious club. There have been some issues, little bits and bobs, but I think we're a club who actually I think you haven't seen the best of Forest yet, and a lot of people, Darren Fletcher said, I think Kev has said that really the real Forest will emerge kind of after the World Cup. So I think Forest can get better. And I do think there are 3 worse teams. And I think Des is right. It's probably going to be 3-4. Des is also right. It's incredibly tough.
Stop praising Des, man. Dave. I'm sick of Des is right. Des is right. Come on, man.
He's my tricky brother, and I love him to pieces, and he speaks much sense. I think it could very well go down. We could be going to Selhurst Park on the last day of the season, and it could be like, do or die stuff. But there's no reason. I think if you go back to Leicester, we were in a bit of a state, and we were on the end of like becoming a bit of a standing joke in the Premier League. I don't think anymore that we're a punchline. We beat Palace. We were excellent against Tottenham, a lot of whom are now playing in the World Cup and doing quite well. So take the Arsenal game out, the last 5 or 6, there are reasons to be cheerful, to quote Ian Dury in the Blockheads.
Just one quick point on what Dave said about Everton. Whilst I didn't put them in the bracket, and I saw a comment there when they sacked Lampard, they will pick up. I do believe that as well. But you made a point about flirting with relegation, and what happens in the Premier League is you flirt with it. Eventually it happens. We saw it with Sunderland. Sunderland did it for years. Burnley started doing it after they had their good spell. You start flirting with it. 1 year it's going to take you. It's going to grab you on the backside, and probably when you think you're not going to take, it's not going to take you. Everton finished the season well, new stadium, like Dave says, and it just becomes too much because the battle, the club is in a doom and gloom place. Like Dave says, bench cam and all these things look good at Forest. Everton, you look at it and think, what a depressing place to be.
Yeah.
And I think on that basis, I'm talking myself into 3 from 5.
Can I just say as well, I've done a lot of flirting and it's never got me anywhere.
Oh, Dave.
Never anywhere.
Dave, don't say that. Dave's a great lad. If there's any single women out there, not just Dave. Right, before we do go, last but not least, people get involved with this. We're going to end up with who's going to win the World Cup. Are England in the World Cup? People in the comments, who's going to win the World Cup? Oh, he's got it on. Right. I'll start with myself. I've always said this. I don't think England will win it. I think France will win it. France will win it. Des, who's yours?
I personally think with the fact that they've got players playing well, I don't think they've actually got the absolute cream of the crop. But Brazil have got an all-round squad of players that are at the top of their leagues playing well. I look at Jesus and Martinelli, who can't really get into the team. They're top of the league. You look at Rafinha at Barcelona. Camirez, what season Newcastle are having. What a player he is, by the way. I'd love somebody like that in the England team. And then you look all over the pitch, they've got players like that who are just playing in top teams, at the top of the leagues. Like I say, what I don't think they've got is absolute worldies, but that will make for a good team. And as the tournament goes on, I really like Vinicius Jr., who plays for Real Madrid. When I put the Champions League on, Madrid are always sluggish first half, and then that guy flicks a button and gets game over. And I think that might happen for Brazil. I really expect big things from him. When I look at England, I get so frustrated with England, and I took some flack after the USA game for some things I said on Twitter. The reason I get so upset with England is because they've got the best squad at the World Cup. Every one of those players, maybe 1 or 2 in the back wouldn't, but every single attacking front forward player would get in every other team. Every other team. Yes, they'd have to fit in around the likes of Mbappe and 2 superstars like that. But England have got the best players, and I just think they're not being utilised correctly. People said they had a great first half against Wales. They didn't. They had more possession. They were playing Forest Green Rovers with 9 men. Let's face it. That Bale and Ramsey and Allen, 8 men. Just they're past it. They should have been playing Johnson if they had any real aspirations of doing anything in that game. So after the Iran game, I thought, yes, they've gone and done what we want them to. I started to talk myself into it. USA, you talk yourself out of it. First half against Wales, just really, really frustrated with it. And I just think the manager, like, he was so impressive when he came in. Southgate was so impressive. He made a statement by getting Rooney out of the team, because it needed doing. He talks well. He dealt with people properly. He showed respect to the role, to players, to the press, to the fans. And all of a sudden, he's fallen into that trap of being arrogant. An arrogant England manager. When they get criticised, they don't like it. It's always going to happen. And the fact that he's arrogant in the sense that keep picking players that were underperforming. Yes, it's worked. And I'll give him his credit for it. Sometimes you have to stick with an Harry Maguire, who's been one of England's better performers. But Raheem Sterling, Man City got rid of Raheem Sterling to play Foden in a position. I'm not saying Raheem Sterling's not a great player, but Foden now plays at Man City in Raheem Sterling's position. And there's a stubbornness, a loyalty, like a blind loyalty come in, which I think it's the cycle of the England manager. I'm not having a go at Southgate especially, but it's because he just sees them as his men. England have got some really, really exciting players who could take this World Cup by storm. To play the way they have at times, has been pathetic. It's been really poor. And everybody, all the pundits want to say it, but they don't really say it. I think if they took the game to anybody, they'd win it hands down. That's my point I wanted to make.
That's Des's point, people. Last but not least, do I need to ask you, Glenn, who's going to win the World Cup? Do I need to ask you?
I think Brazil will win. I would love to. Des, I totally agree. I would love to see England in the final. I would love to see England getting up there again. I would love to see a squad put on, particularly at Senegal on Sunday, who are going to really take the game to them. I think that some of the negativity that came out of the USA game was valid. I think they were just a bit scared to lose against a team that were going to throw the kitchen sink at England and we're going to try and get behind them, and at certain points threatened, but they didn't really. Pulisic, played well on Tuesday night, but he was really the only threat. And what they didn't want to do is to concede, so they just held the high block and just rode the game out. I think they just got damage limitation and managed to get it. Now I don't think if they try that tactic against Senegal, they're going to get much out of it. Later on in the tournament, they're going to be found out, certainly by players who are going to play against that. I think that on paper, you're absolutely right, Des. They have got the best squad. It's just a matter of finding where they are, and it's always the case, isn't it? Even with me, I'd put a lad in or I actually teach a coach a girls team. I put a girl in last Friday when we had our last match, who trained really well. I didn't think they were the best player. Put them in because they've been to every training session. That's a typical kind of the way I am and the nice guy that I am, and get everybody in. In the end, that didn't make any difference to the team. But that's the way that they've gone through, and they've put in the likes of Saka and elsewhere, who are just needing that extra little bit of game time. I think as we get later on in the rounds, I think we'll find who that best 11 are. And I think hopefully if we get past Senegal, we might start challenging for later rounds. Typically, Kayate will score and it'll be 1-0 on Sunday.
Glenn, I said exactly the same.
Won't it? After all of that.
Can I just say, like I know we're all kind of agreeing on this, but I firmly believe England can still win it. So beyond all this like Southgate negativity, and the point Glenn made about USA, Southgate hid behind the USA's performance. For me, he hid behind their performance. We know of a football manager who said football is a simple game made complicated by idiots. He hid behind the performance of the USA. We shouldn't be scared of the USA. They're not as good as they think they are. You look at them man for man, not one of them would play for England. Not one of them will get near the squad. So don't hide behind the performance and say, well, we expected them to play like that. Play like we expect to play. get on the front foot, take the game to them. We win the World Cup.
Should I ask the washing machine who's going to win the World Cup? I've never heard a washing machine go that so long. Dave, what's
basically? It's like a one-man rave here at the moment. So, who wins the World Cup? England don't. They're not good enough at the back. I think they're top heavy. If England are to win it, they have to stop being Coldplay and Westlife and Boyzone, and they have to start being a punk band. They have to start being the Pistols, the Dan, the Clash, the Stranglers, the Ruts, the Jam. That's what they have to be. They have to go for it. They have to they have to raise the middle finger and go for it. But they won't, because they've got a conservative manager for a conservative country, right? What I do think is that they go out in the quarterfinals to France, because I don't think they can handle Kylian Mbappe. The only player, actually, England maybe have the only player who could deal with Kylian Mbappe and Kyle Walker. But I just think France have got too much. I think France beat Brazil in the final. I actually think that there isn't an outstanding international team. There is not an international team that grabs me by the collar and throws me around the room like I like to be. So I watched Brazil. See, I'm lucky. Right. I'm lucky in that I remember Brazil in 1970, Gerson, Rivellino, Jairzinho, Tostão, Pelé, the greatest team that ever been. And Brazil get hyped. They're just a European team playing European style football. They're nothing special. France aren't great. There isn't a good. You can tell why there's no great international football teams, because every time an international break comes along, everybody goes, "Oh, no club football for a fortnight." If international football was that good, we go, "Hey, great, we can get into some international football." I think it's a tournament full of mediocre, pretty average teams. I mean, some of them, Poland, Denmark, Belgium, would struggle in League One. Forest would beat most of these teams out there. I honestly think that. And we're 18th in the Premier League. But I think that France have got the only player in the tournament who gives me goosebumps every time he gets the ball, and that's Kylian Mbappe. He's the one, to me, he's the one truly world-class player in this tournament. And I think he's the difference maker. And I think France will beat Brazil in the final. And England, I think England will go out in the quarterfinals to France, but they'll go down fighting. They'll actually go down realizing that for them, attack is the best form of defense. When you've got Saka, Marcus Rashford, Phil Foden, you've got Jack Grealish, you've got Raheem Sterling, you've got James Maddison. You've got some real talent there. Unfortunately, we're not good enough. What gets me is this passing around at the back between Maguire and Stones. It just sets it all off. It's dreadful. So, no, England don't win the World Cup. And if I or my washing machine said England were going to win the World Cup, you could definitely write them off. So if I say they won't win it, then you never know.
Two things, Dave. If you want phone around your living room, I'd sit on that washing machine.
Actually, Des, just to let you into a little secret, I often just stand against it. You know what I mean?
Is it warm?
Oh, it's lovely. The vibrations, Des, are quite incredible, honestly.
Right. That's it.
What I'm sick of seeing, you're on about Stones and Harry Maguire. I'm sick of Harry Kane passing to Harry Maguire.
Oh, Dave.
Although, I tell you what, Slabhead against America, Slabhead kept us in the game because you just kept heading it out. And, I tell you where I get off. People get written off. So, we're all writing Slabhead off, and he's played all right. And let's for all the stick that Southgate gets, he's the second England manager to take England to a final. So when we're all, writing Gareth off, just remember that. I mean, I think whatever happens at the end of this tournament, he's gone. But it's not all bad. He's got some stubbornness for sure. But he did get us to a final and a semi, and only Alpha's ever done that before.
You know what? On that point, though, when you look at international football historically, these teams win World Cups coming up through the ages. So again, yes, you're right, Dave, and that will be on his CV, and he can take that with him and he can throw it back at us. But England won the World Cup a few years ago, under 17 level. We know all too well. And what happens? It goes in a cycle. The Spanish do it, the Germans do it, the Brazilians do it. You know, and we're not quite doing it, are we? There's a problem. And for me, after a brilliant start, the manager is the problem for me because he's not getting them over the line. He's not inspiring it. Phil Foden won't be happy, you know, sat on the bench when he knows he plays for the best team in the world, you know. And again, so they can say what they want in terms of backing it up, but they won't be happy. And I think this is England's time. You know, we all spoke about it in 2006, you know, with Beckham and Scholes, but they'd not won at their age bracket. They were playing good opponents. They were playing good teams. Like you said, right now, the opposition is not there. Look at that Germany team. You know, they've always had a number 9 who scores 47 goals for them. They ain't got a striker. No. You know, we've got a bit of an embarrassment of riches when you start looking at those attacking players. Grealish hardly had a kick. He has been I know he's been on the pitch, but Grealish is. So 2 games on the left-hand side, we started Sterling and Foden, and Grealish hasn't started. I'm not saying he's the best player in the world, but 3 players in that position of that quality, and we're still moaning about drawing 0-0 with the USA. I think now is the time, because the next manager probably will miss out again, you know, on players getting to a point. I think now is the time that England should grab it by the scruff of the neck, you know, and don't win it. Don't win it.
Before we do a last comment for this, that wash machine is a serious problem. I've never witnessed a wash machine go.
It has a serious problem. It has to live with me, mate.
Someone's saying it needs to be thrown in the trend.
Actually, Des has got Stan and I've got the washing machine, so we've both got our demons. You know what I mean?
What have you got, Dave? Glenn, what have you got?
Oh, mate, we ain't got time for that. Now 37. We'll come on.
It's been too long, people. It's been a great show, people. And as you know, before we do go, myself, Des, and Dave, and maybe Glenn will be at the game tomorrow. So if you do see me, or see Dave, or see Des, just push Des for me. So it's feel free for it. It's completely free. So just give a little.
Don't bring the washing machine.
Don't bring your washing machine. Don't bring your washing machine. But yes, if you do see us, get on the vlog. It's gonna be a different. It's gonna be a different kind of vlog, people. So we'll talk about the season ahead of us and what's your opinion about everything. So yeah, look forward to that as well. And as well, again, it's going to be games that are going. I'm definitely going to Valencia. I don't know if Des is going to Valencia yet, but we'll talk about it soon. If Des can hear me, I don't think he can hear me. So I am going Valencia, people. I'm not going Olympiacos. So then we've got Blackburn in the League Cup, and then we've got Man U, 27th of December. Right, Glenn, Dave, and Des, thank you very much. Make sure everyone subscribes to Des' channel. His link is in the description. And what else? Anything else? And that's it, people. I'm going to say bye-bye to Dave's washing machine because it's been a pain in the arse.
Won't turn it on next time, I promise.
It's fine. I've not heard it as well. But people, if you are new to the channel, please do hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. And the vlog will be out on Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, for the Forest and Stoke game. Peace and love, people. And I'll see you tomorrow at the Stoke game. Thank you.